Everybody knows we're in a new era, right? Brand new era. And part of that era is a phase change of this planet, the entire planet. Now, I know that may sound strange right now, but it won't be. This year, we're going to have to go through just a couple things. Well, more than a couple, but concerning the planet, this phase change is very pronounced. Extremely pronounced. Things will not be as they were, and people are going to have to get used to some very different conditions. That does mean that you're going to find a lot of people making adjustments in cities, city managers, so forth and so on, making changes with the infrastructure to withstand some of the new forces that are being introduced. There are a lot of people right now watching quite a few things around the earth, and many of the professionals are at a loss as to the key source of what's taking place on the planet. You guys have heard me say earlier, before this year began, that loss of life is going to be a big issue this year. Loss of life. And unfortunately, you're going to hear that echoed wherever you go, especially dealing with weather and geological events. Loss of life will be in great numbers. That is part of this phase change. Every single deliverance in the Word of God, it always came with a choice. And whatever the people chose, God gave a few chances after that to qualify their choices. But then after that, it was over, right? The same thing is happening here, except this is the last time. Unlike any other time in history, though, we have phenomena that we can actually see both on the earth and in deep space. And tracking some of these things, you have millions of people tracking these things. Thousands of professionals, tens of thousands of professionals who are consistently involved in tracking, gathering data, trying to get a good idea as to the basis of many of these changes, especially the phase change Earth is going through right now. Let me give you an idea of what a phase change is. We're not talking about the phases of the moon, but something similar, meaning for many years, this planet has been very stable. We have been extremely blessed. Things have been in motion in such a consistent with such consistency that people, we kind of took it for granted, like it was normal or something, not realizing how delicate, how fractured our system can become with the slightest influence of something external or massive changes internally. There's not going to be one spot that won't be affected by this phase change. Not one place. And it's important that we understand aspects of it. Right? To really get it in our minds that, yes, this is, I'm going to say right now, this is a very high chance that this potential is going to affect all of us. And fast, immediately almost. Right? Preparation is imperative, especially by way of the soul, so that you don't lose your footing. For those who stay the course, who are anchored, it's a perfect opportunity to reach those you could not reach before. Those you love. All of you have people that love you. All of you have people you affect by way of conversation. You meet them on a day-to-day basis. You may interact with them once a week, whatever the case is. You affect people. It's a good time to reach people. They will ask you things about the Lord and salvation, heaven or hell. They will become serious about choosing Christ. And it's a good time to get prepared, to give them the word, not what we think about the word, all right? I'm going to begin that tonight, right before I go into this conversation about the phase change and certain, I don't want to say events, because that word is becoming old, but things that are taking place, shaping up right now, that people will ultimately face. No doubt they're underestimating. what's going to happen. I'll say it again. There's not one place on the earth that will not be touched by this. Right? I'm not concerned about what sounds crazy. For example, 213 mile an hour winds. I'm not concerned about who would ever say that will never take place. I'm not concerned about that. And you guys know I'm not concerned about that. But that goes into the factoring to make sure that I'm double checking everything. Spiritually, mentally, physically, in all aspects of life. And I have to go by those things I have experience with. This won't be speculation. This time comes much like a thief with great surprise, and people aren't ready. In 2 days, people won't be ready. They think they will be. They think they may think they know what I'm talking about. They do not. In 2 days, they will not be ready. Mark my words. They won't be ready. And people will sit in defeat. Why? Because of what they trust. If they trust the Spirit, nothing will catch them off guard. Nothing. Because God will always spiritually have people prepared. But if you don't know, if you're not disciplined to listen to spiritual things, and all you can do is deduce what your eyes see, you're going to be in a bad way. You guys in Texas, get yourselves prepared. Everybody in British Columbia, specifically British Columbia. Do you guys hear me? British Columbia. Get yourselves prepared. Get yourselves prepared. And unfortunately, there is a storm front that starts in the Gulf of Mexico, and it goes all the way up to Quebec, Canada. Okay? So it's a pretty lengthy storm. We have another storm coming also. But this one's going to be bad. Very bad. In the North Pacific Ocean right now, I know they're talking about it because they have no choice. In the North Pacific Ocean, they put out, the National Weather Service has put out a notice. And do you guys know what they said? Not only were they talking about the atmospheric potentials, but they were talking about loss of life. They said loss of life is unfortunately what people are going to have to endure. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a very tiny storm. Here's the difference in these storms and the other storms we've been having. There's an event taking place in the Pacific Ocean, a huge evaporation event, which means with the Arctic air that's now forcing a brand new stream, almost a double jet stream type of event is taking place, with pressure changes over the North Pacific. We're talking about atmospheric pressure changes. A couple of Orions flew through the low pressure system in the North Pacific, finding that the water density in the air has never been that way before. Not ever has it been that way before. The waters, right? The air current is not fast. You're looking at speeds, surface speeds, or let's just say part of your tangent speeds being at 14 miles an hour. So it's not like a hurricane. It's not twirling real fast. Not at 14 miles an hour. But the density of the water is twice the amount it's ever been before. In the air. In the air. So we have a process beginning, right? That's one area out of a few. We have 8 heat anomalies in the waters. They're only going to get worse, which means it does not matter if it's winter. It does not matter if it's summer, right? These events are going to increase. They're going to take off. They're really going to start to take off. Many will have to just simply relocate. They're not going to be able to. And remember last night when I was talking to you guys about what I heard, right? Well, the insurance rewrite, when I said it was too much to build, and they were talking about insurance for some reason, but it was too much to rebuild is what they said. And they were talking about insurance rewrites. That's what they were talking about. Well, I got nosy, and I was looking into certain processes of insurance, and some of their more, let's just say, stable points, stable financial points behind the insurance industry. Well, any weakness in any insurance company is going to be exposed this year. At the beginning of this year, likely, well, for a few companies, it's starting already. And we're not talking about the tiny underwriters. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the big boys, the boys who manage distribution of those funds. There's a problem. There's an issue that's forming. But it's just shocked everybody, right? It's just shocked everybody. These things are just beginning. They really are. Somebody says, on the 5th. On the 5th. Now, I'll discuss some more of this with Pastor Paul about this wave, but listen to me, folks. This pulse is coming through on January 5th. It will strike the heliosphere, right? We don't know what the reaction is going to be. Just don't know what the reaction is going to be. But sometime within a 17-hour period, if we see some type of reaction from the sun, then we know we have a good idea what it is. And this is going to be, in my book, this is going to be important because I know what's behind it. I know what else is coming after it, following it. This will be an example. It's pretty big, too. It's a pretty strong pulse. But keep in mind, we just had something hit us. And nothing happened, right? That's what you think. We had 28 things hit us. We had 28 things hit us between the months of November and December, and nothing happened. Nothing too much happened. Just keep that in mind. So there is no predictive mechanism that will tell us what's going to happen or won't happen, right? We don't know. Nobody knows. That's something scientifically based. It's something that you can observe. It's something that if it causes a reaction within the sun in the first 17 hours, well, then that'll give us a good indication of what follows. All right. But I think I saw somebody saying that that when January 5th, the wave hits and it's going to be 3 days of darkness. I never said that. There is no 3 days of darkness in my book. There's just not. That's a prospect. It's debris, and the fires are coming, right? I'll be talking a lot about preparations for specific types of fires. You guys will hear me talk about that. Folks, listen, we have so much more to discuss, but on when I'm talking about Pastor Ball, I'm going to have some more to talk about with the wave, okay? But don't have fear behind these situations. Seek to understand them as I am doing, because it's going to be the first of multiple things we're going to have to deal with just like that, all right? We'll have to deal with quite a few things like that. And unfortunately, this year, this time, they're not going to be so passive. They're not, all right? They just won't. I don't believe they will. I honestly believe that lots of lives are going to be consumed. It's going to be a loss of life. In fact, the loss of life is going to make these sayings unattractive. I may not even be able to speak this way in another 3 months because of what they'll demand from the internet, right? It's already changing Wednesday. You guys know that, right? On Wednesday, the internet is going to undergo a change on Wednesday. It's not going to disrupt your service, but let's just say that everything you do on the internet is going to be no longer passive. Everything you do is going to build up your own personal profile. And very soon we're going to be just like China. You know, a time is coming where you'll walk into a store. You won't need a wallet. You won't need anything. You just go in the store. By way of biometrics. They'll know exactly who you are and how much you have and whatever account you have. The only thing you'll be asked is possibly what account you want your charges come out from. You won't have to go see a person either, because everything you pick out of the aisle, you know they have the new registers that are coming out. The new registers do not require a person. They can count everything you go out the store with. Anything that belongs in that store. Why they do? Because they have magnetic printers now. Right? Now they had magnetic ink. Now they have a special type of printer that's very cheap to make. And everything on a box now, every colorful picture and everything else is made with an identifiable ink that shows up as a critic. They all are about to have the new technology, right? Where you can bypass the card and everything else and go directly to biometrics. Just so you understand that. So that means you forget about the middle process of things, right? Forget about that. This is going to be put on. A pilot test is running right now. People get in a specific vehicle. They don't show they don't need an identity. They don't need to show a wallet or anything else. They get in the vehicle, they go take a ride, and, they get off the ride, and there you go. They don't have to show anything. So they essentially walk on, sit on, and walk off. And it is flawless. They have two stores or areas set up like this, a pilot area. They have quite a few places like that. I believe they have a barber shop. I believe they have some grocery stores. I believe they have some small shopping centers, some other stuff like that, where this stuff is being tested out. And the people they don't carry anything. By biometrics, right? That's your fingerprint, is your body. Your body can house up to, 8 billion points. 8 billion identifiable points to a computer. And so each person is like a walking fingerprint. They can tell you from everything else and from a very long distance away. You don't need to carry credentials when you can be properly identified that way. You guys know what that means, right? Once you can be identified flawlessly by a computer like that from multiple different places, because they'll do triangulation and error checking and everything else. Once that happens, they'll also begin to regulate who does what, right? They already have personalized advertising method used to encourage people to do specific things with their money. So machines will know how much money you have, how much money you have on account. It'll be impossible to hide it. This technology also goes in cars. So if you go to an ATM, think of it this way. You go to an ATM, you draw some money, put it in your pocket. Throughout the day, every single one of those places is going to know to the penny how much you have in your pocket. Right? It's going to count your change. It's going to know everything about you. And so that's what we're moving towards. So there won't be something that you carry, because they have other methods for that now. And so here we are, right? It's a very secure system. Unfortunately, it's a very intrusive system. Apple iPhones, the new Apple iPhone is set up for that already. Some of the new Windows machines set up for that already. The hardware is in there. That's why they have enormous processing power reserved for the system. But the system will never use that. It's for something else. Or at that moment, we're just there. We're there. Right? Today, you don't have to renounce Christ for it. But isn't it funny how you have to compromise? You have to compromise the way you walk with Christ for the sake of the world, and it's getting worse. Well, I can already tell you I don't fit into everything in the world. So I have a good feeling of what is coming down the pike for me. I don't conform very well to things that go against my strong beliefs. So
Not very smart, is it? But that's just the way it is. Folks, listen, I can't hold you hostage any longer. God bless and keep all of you always.